Hey guys, Matt, IronTrap Garage, and we're working on the 39 Forgotten Hot Rod project again. So, the last time what you saw was we made the rear panel to convert the car into having a flat rear floor. Seemed like there's some mixed emotions on what people thought of that, but I think number one, the biggest thing is we're trying to make this a low budget and quick, easy project. So this is a way that we can get a floor in the trunk of this without spending a lot of money. It's fairly simple, it's fairly straightforward. I know a lot of guys had some great ideas about putting little like inserts in here to have more storage and things like that, little hidden storage areas and different ideas that were really great. But again, I'm trying to remind you guys, I'm trying to keep this project like simple. And while I've done that in plenty of other projects where I've gone nuts and gone on like side tangents and making stuff that's just, you know, very involved, on this car I'm trying not to do that. We're just trying to keep moving forward. So we're going to forgo adding any crazy compartments, although it was some great ideas. And what we're going to do is just work on getting the floor in this time, getting it welded in so that structurally the rear half of the car is pinned back together, and we can start working on some of the other stuff that is more pressing. So Andrew, last time in between the last video, I believe, he worked on getting this sprayed for me. So he cleaned the panel all up. He sprayed both sides with self-etch primer to get everything sealed up and ready to go. Now what we can do is I'm going to work on cutting out for our latch for the trunk, which is a big thing. We got to get this sitting down, and then I left the excess on the edge of the trunk here. So once this sits down in, I can scribe from underneath on this original panel and cut the panel so that it fits real nice against the edge of the lip of the inner panel. So when we put our new inner panel in, we can butt it up. Everything will sit just how it is on this panel, and we should be good to go. So I'm going to work on getting it scribed and cut and everything, and sitting better, and then we can work on figuring out what we're going to do for a little bit of bracing in here where the trunk latch goes in there. Alright, so I think our first step here is to get the cutout for the right about there. Right there. So we'll draw that shape in. Actually, I think what we'll do is just use the force. Try and cut this in. Pretty good. Alright, so that guy's sitting down in there. I think I'm going to trim it out just a little more, but we'll, now that we got it sitting flat, it's about how we need it to be. Things closing up pretty good. So now that I got that, what I can do is I can actually go underneath here move all these shards of the original panel out. Glad I'm wearing some gloves right about now. Alright, so you can see got this flipped on the bottom here on the so you can see the bottom side. So there's that scribe. Had to push pretty hard because this Eastwood etch primer I have on here is pretty tough stuff. So you can see on this side I didn't push quite as hard, so the line's a little more faint, but I could definitely see it. There's not a lot has to be trimmed on this side here. So Get that all trimmed up. Then we can test fit it back in again. I'm going to open up this hole right here like I mentioned. I think what I'm going to do is just give it a little more of a rounded shape, and that should clear the latch then, and we'll be good there. And we can fit it back in one last time, and then hopefully we're about home free that we could start making the brace for the latch then. Again, notice I'm using the hand shears. I want a pretty clean, crisp cut here. See that line. Oh, all right. Now we can do something in here. Not sure what yet. All right, so I got this rear panel in after trimming it, and everything sits really nice, and I could finally close the trunk. But I noticed when I was laying underneath of the car, the little front to back brace where the hood latch or the trunk latch gets attached was sitting quite low compared to the trunk floor, and I couldn't figure out why it was so low. And I looked and realized that I think it's bent, and it's also allowing the trunk latch to be bent at the wrong angle, so it might be hard to see there, but the latch isn't closing and the trunk is closed, and it actually fits half decent, but the latch isn't engaging. So I think what's happening there is from the floor crumbling, that catch for the latch is actually tweaked in towards us here, towards the front of the car, and needs to be tweaked back so they can actually catch on the moving part of the latch there. So I need to bend that up, get that to fit so that the trunk latches, then we know that we have the trunk panel in the right spot. I don't want to build it so that it is not fitting right with the latch, and then we have to really mess with stuff. So try and get it latching first, and then we'll go from there. But the trunk looks good from here. It's looking pretty good. I know that light makes it hard to see, but everything fits pretty darn good. I think it's gonna look pretty cool when it's all done. Very, very simple. Again, I'm not going over the top here with this one. Just some strengthening beads. We'll have a little brace down the center, and we should be pretty good. Inside is just passed. Yeah, looks good. What did you do? Ready? Yep. This side is sprung back. Actually looks better. Yeah, I don't want to go much more than that.
Let's try it here now. Just a little bit, because you're favoring this side. Right there.
And down. All right. So our brace fits. Now, probably just put something on it to make sure it's level. That looks.
You have a level laying around?
Yeah. Okay, so that's there. All right, here we are. Let's see. Just checking where we got a cut.
I think it's like
I think it's done metal there.
ready?
Yep. Now,
Let's lift it straight up.
you know what? I can cut that.
There you go. That might. Keep cutting. I'll tell you when you're. One more.
Whatever we did there, we're real close.
Alright, so I got the trunk floor all welded in, and I sprayed down a coat of Eastwood textured rust encapsulator on the whole entire back floor area here, just to basically seal everything up, get all this stuff sealed and all one color. It makes it look a lot nicer, and also we sealed up any surface rust that was on anything. I went ahead and wire wheeled and cleaned all the heavy rust or flaky rust off the seat pan area, which there wasn't too much, honestly. Coated all of that, coated all of the trunk floor, which already had some self-etching primer on it, so didn't really need it, but I wanted to get everything all one coat. And most importantly, I wanted to weld around the areas where I stitch welded everything, so that when we go ahead and seam seal all of this, when we're done doing all our floor welding, everything's sealed up, so we're just laying seam sealer over areas that already have paint that's gotten, or rust encapsulator that's gotten down inside of all the seams and everything. So everything went pretty well. It just took a lot of on and off with the floor pan that, honestly, again, one of these videos that's like a 20-minute video that took like days of work, and in between me traveling and getting sick and all kinds of stupid stuff, getting a cold this time of year, slowed me down a little bit, but I got everything in, and I think it looks pretty cool. I ended up cutting out some notches right at the front to me, forward of the wheel well, right behind where the rear body mounts are, right there. I ended up cutting that because the way the frame actually went and the floor went, the floor was solid there, and I ended up cutting out around there because I think it just actually flowed everything in a little better, and I'm actually happy I did that, because the way I had it before, it was kind of an abrupt, and it would have made like a belly in the pan. So now everything kind of flows, it just kind of dips in right where everything flows together. And honestly, once I seam seal all this stuff and you put like a rubber mat in the floor, you'll never see it anyways, but it's nice to know that everything kind of looks symmetrical and all good in the floor. So next couple things we got to do, obviously, is I got to finish welding the rest of the front of the floor pan, have Andrew work on that a little bit, making those little slivers we need in the front, getting all that stuff stitch welded in, so the floor pan in the front's fully done. We can go ahead and start working on this rear pan back here, get everything seam sealed, get this rear pan in, and we are good to go. But one of the nicest things, as most satisfying for me through this whole project, is I now got the trunk to actually latch, which is something it hasn't done since the day we got the car out of the junkyard. So small victories, if that's anything I can tell you guys, small victories. So I got the latch to adjust up, and we were able to get the trunk to latch, which is really nice. So now that the trunk latches, I can work on getting this rear panel cut apart. I didn't want to cut this rear panel out with having the trunk floor all cut out because everything was floppy. Honestly, when I was working on getting this trunk floor in, it fought me a little bit because the wheel well areas actually were kind of loose because of there not being any support in there. So I had to be careful when I was doing all that I made sure that it wasn't like pulled in or anything stupid. So you have to be very careful when you're cutting a car this far apart that you don't cut too much stuff out and the thing becomes a wet noodle. So now I have all this locked in. I didn't weld anything along this perimeter edge here back where it meets the rear pan because I'm going to actually cut out the rear pan. We're going to cut out around where the latch is, keep the center brace, and extract this centerpiece, pull it out, fix the corners, put that in, blah, blah, blah. Make it a nice car eventually. But the rear of the car is now finally solid, so I can start working around other things. But that's some of the stuff that needs to happen in the trunk, and we are working our way into making the car solid, which is really exciting for me. So that's all I have for this one. I appreciate you guys following along with the 39 Forgotten Hot Rod project. As always, we do videos on Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. If you haven't, make sure you subscribe because we have a lot going on with this. We're going to be kicking into gear with the Sweetheart Roadster, Andrew's T. We're firing on all cylinders for 2020, and we're going to be putting out a ton of content. And hopefully you guys are into traditional hot rods and customs will appreciate. Thanks, guys. Catch you later.